This podcast is part of the Batman Universe Podcast Network, hosted by the BatmanUniverse.net. Check out everything related to Batman and the entire Bat family at the BatmanUniverse.net, including news and original content related to comics, movies, television, merchandise, video games, and more. Also, check out some of the other unique podcasts that TBU has to offer. Consider supporting this podcast by becoming a patron on Patreon. Even $1 can go a long way in supporting this content that you enjoy. Look for a link over at the BatmanUniverse.net to offer your support now. And now, on with the show.
Hi, my name is Peter Tomasi.
Hi, this is James Tynan IV.
Hi, I'm Dan Jurgens.
Hey, I'm Dustin Wynn.
This is Jim Lee.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder.
This is Mark Hamill speaking.
This is Kevin Conroy.
This is Tim Sale.
Hello, everyone. I'm Batman, and you're listening to my podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Batman Universe Comic Podcast, Season 13, Episode 20. I'm your host, Ian, and I have with me...
This is Theo.
Unfortunately, it's just the two of us because Steph, Theo, and I all had scheduling problems this week and couldn't make it together on any of the available days. But we will soldier on, Theo and I, and we have a lot to talk about this week as it is the second week of a month. So we have two Fear State titles to talk about, plus our regular Greater Gotham and a little bit of news, which we'll get started with right now.
And if you hear any crunching, that's either Ian or I eating wings and beer.
I mean, I have chips, but no beer. All right, so Fandom was last week, and there was a fair amount of Batman-related news. None of it really comics. There was some Superman comic commentary, but nothing really Batman-y from comics. But we did have, of course, the trailer for the Batman movie, starring Robert Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz, directed by Matt Reeves. What'd you think about it, Theo?
So I missed out on it when it was first revealed, because I was on the first leg of my Comic-Con trifecta. I was in Detroit for Motor City Comic-Con listening to Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. But when I did watch it, I watched it while guys were getting their stuff signed. And I absolutely loved it. I was very pessimistic at first of seeing Pattinson in the role. And this is not due to the whole Twilight thing, but just the notion of Batman and the character and the mythos. I was just a little concerned with that. But I should remember that the director is Matt Reeves, and if you have not watched his Planet of the Apes movies, then you should, because then you will understand why you should put faith in him. I absolutely love the trailer, so I am actually pretty excited for when it's premiered.
I'm definitely... Go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say I think this is gonna be the first one that Warner Brothers is not gonna release on HBO Max, right? I think it's gonna be strictly in the theaters.
It is planned for just theaters. Of course, things can change, but Warner Brothers is definitely kind of regretting the fact that they put Dune on streaming right now, I think. I myself thought this definitely didn't decrease any anticipation. I'm still kind of wait and see on this, just because I did actually enjoy the first two of the Planet of the Apes movies. I just didn't watch the third one. And I think that it could be great. I have no problems with Pattinson or most of the cast. I guess we'll just have to wait and see, really. There's a lot of hype around it, and the trailer certainly was good. I'm not quite sure what I think about Batman just taking bullets to the chest. That's not super realistic.
Oh, that was awesome.
I mean, it's awesome, but it's also incredibly unrealistic.
Now, I will say, I don't think anything can ever replace Batfleck and that fight scene in
the
BVS.
Warehouse.
Oh God, that was a thing of beauty. That was just wow.
It was pretty amazing. I don't know. It definitely had some really good stuff. I am very interested to see how Batman faces up against both Riddler and Penguin, because they didn't show Riddler's face. Penguin they did, and it did not look like what's that Irish actor's name again?
Farrell.
Colin Farrell. It did not look like him, but
it did a good job of fixing him up.
Yeah. So I think that'll be really cool to see his acting there.
Yeah, I'm shocked you didn't mention Zoe Kravitz. Let me tell you, I enjoyed watching her mature as an actor, going all the way back to the Divergent movie. So she's really grown, and she's really, I can't tell who she looks. She looks really looking like a mom more and more now. But
I thought I did mention Zoe, did I not?
I don't. Maybe you did. Maybe you didn't.
Oh, I don't know. I am curious to see. I'm not a huge fan of how fetishy they're going. I prefer the more kind of. I mean, it was definitely still fetishy in Dark Knight Rises, but it had more of a practical feel to it. And I'm not a huge fan of the huge stiletto leather boots. Although, of course, Anne Hathaway had the metal heels, which were sort of like knives. But I'm definitely open to seeing how it goes.
You didn't like Hathaway as Catwoman?
No, I did like her.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought she did pretty good. Now, again, she's no Michelle Pfeiffer, but...
See, Michelle Pfeiffer was a little too... She was basically a Two-Face character. She didn't have the classic Selena backstory, so it was a little weird for me.
She was exactly what Tim Burton wanted.
She definitely was that. I just happen to not be a Tim Burton guy. So that's the Batman, and obviously that's the biggest thing for most Batman fans. We also had the Gotham Knights trailer, and this was basically just the Court of Owls. Did you have any thoughts on that, Theo?
I did not see that trailer. I did not get a chance to see that one, so I will be taking a look at that as soon as we are done with this episode. So don't kill me, guys. Don't at me.
I thought it was interesting. What I liked a lot about the first trailer last Fandom was it really focused on the characters of Bruce and the four main characters they're using. And this one didn't really focus on them at all. It was all about the villains, and I don't really care as much about the court. I mean, sure, they're fine. And they fixed the poem, which is good, because the poem that Scott Snyder wrote has no consistent meter, and the rhymes are really bad. And I'm sorry, that's the English major in me. I get really irritated by bad poetry that's supposed to do one thing but doesn't. But I don't know, this didn't get me more excited. I definitely thought the Batman trailer was better. Did you watch the Flash trailer, Theo?
I did.
What'd you think?
I mean, unless this was not the actual trailer, it didn't reveal much, other than at the end with them pulling and revealing the Batmobile. I mean, that was a nice gesture, but until I see Michael Keaton face front and center, then I'll get excited. But I mean, overall, I still think Flashpoint so soon is not needed.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting because they're basically just continuing with the problem that Batman vs. Superman started, which is we're doing our big crossover in the second movie instead of the 10th movie. But I understand there is a lot of potential, like narrative potential, and if you want to do something like Flashpoint while Michael Keaton is still able to do that, I mean, I don't think you'd want to wait another 10 years to do Flashpoint if you wanted to use Michael Keaton, Oh, and of course, solicitations dropped right after we released our last episode for January. Interestingly, for all the fact that there are a lot of Batman titles, they didn't announce that much that was new. The only two new titles were Batman the Knight by Chip Zdarsky and Carmine Di Giandomenico, and that is a mini-series telling Batman's origins. Now, I'm very excited about Carmine Di Giandomenico, even though I think he's probably not going to get a chance to draw a lot of actual Batman, since this is basically a comic book covering the same kinds of events as Batman Begins, very much an origin. What do you think, Theo, about Batman the Knight?
Well, I've been saying, excuse me. Well, I've been saying since Urban Legends and, even Black and White and some of the other stories that he's done, that I've been waiting to see Zdarsky on a Batman book. And I guess we finally get it, and hopefully we'll get more of it. So I'm excited to pick this one up and read it.
Yeah. The other new thing is a one-shot by Peter Tomasi called Superman and Robin. Of course, this would be a modern-day Super Sons with the aged-up John and Damian in his current iteration. This will be illustrated by Victor Bogdanovich. And I mean, the fact that they're doing this after the 3 miniseries challenge and adventures of the Super Sons, I think it was 3. Was it just 2?
I thought it was 3.
I mean, there was the main series, and then there was a spinoff. And I thought there was two more. Maybe there's just one spinoff.
I can't remember.
So those are the two new things. We also had a creative team change. We knew Ram V was leaving Catwoman, and we had the announcement of the new writer, which is Teenie Howard, who's been doing sort of some crossover work similar to Matt Rosenberg. I myself wasn't a huge fan of her work on Excalibur over in the X-Men titles, but I'm definitely going to take a look at what happens in January with Catwoman. I'm hoping it's not another Joelle Jones where it kind of doesn't go anywhere, but we'll see.
Yeah, I was not a fan of what Teenie did at Excalibur with Marvel. It wasn't a good story, at least at the point I dropped it. But I am willing to give her a few issues to see where she takes the story. Hopefully she continues the storyline that Ron B was giving us. But I don't know if that's going to be the case. But I am. It's going to be so hard to replace the good that Ron V has done with just reinvigorating my excitement over Catwoman.
Yeah, definitely. He did such a really solid job. I'm hoping that he's able to wrap things up in a really satisfying way. But of course, it'll have to hand off to the next writer too, so it won't be like an ending. But we also have a shipper spotlight that should make at least Stella happy. And I think both Theo and I are also happy. There's the cover to Nightwing number 88. I think this is a variant. And it is a very passionate embrace and kiss between Nightwing and Barbara Gordon, which they recently kissed in an issue of Nightwing during Fear State, which we'll be covering in the next episode because it'll be the Fear State catch-up. And Tim Drake's comment was, I think it was about time or something like that, and everyone was like, of course.
Yeah, you said finally.
Yeah. So that's all really the news and solicitations. As I said, there are a lot of Batman stuff.
Wait. I have got to comment about this cover from Jamal Campbell for Nightwing. Anything he puts his work to, I can just pick it up and just adore it. He is just one of the greats, and you know that because he's won an Eisner this year. He's won a Ringo.
What did he win the Eisner for?
I thought he won the Eisner for best cover artist.
Oh, really?
Oh, I know. I thought that's what. But I do know he won best cover artist at the Ringo this year. But he is just such a great artist, and he seems to be a good writer too. But considering what his silent work from Batman Black and White, but
oh man, that story was amazing.
That Nightwing story was awesome.
It was excellent.
But yeah, I can pick up anything. I mean, and his way with styles, and now he can tone down. He can tone down the Nightwing butts a little bit, but I mean, other than that, the dude he's just so good.
I mean, we could talk about the Robin's alternate variant covers that were revealed.
Yeah, I mean,
there actually weren't very many butts, but there were so many abs and pecs on display.
Well, I mean, he had on the other Nightwing variant he did with Dick and Stephen Cass, he had butts on nobody but Dick.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And so it's just, I don't know if that's just a part of DC lore when it comes to Nightwing, I guess.
I mean, Tim Seeley basically made it canon, so
yeah. Now
Jim and Juan.
I will say this because Tom Tiller and DC's been teasing. So if we don't get a proposal or a move in together finally or something between these two, I'm going to be quite disappointed.
It would be nice to see them actually I don't know. It feels like they've been teasing us for too long and we're kind of burnt out, but let's hope.
Yeah, the only thing I don't want to see, and it's not that I don't think it can happen. I don't know if I'm ready for it. But some have speculated that Babs might be pregnant. I don't know if I would be a fan of that just yet.
That does seem, I don't know. That would surprise me for sure. I would want them, to be committed, because I wouldn't want Dick to leave a kid or Babs to leave a kid. I would want them to be parents together if that was the case.
Of course.
But yeah, we'll talk more about Nightwing, of course, when we get to that next episode. But I think it's fair to say that both of us enjoy the Dick and Babs romance that's going on over there. I think it's quite nice.
Even if it is Tom Taylor.
I mean, I phrased what I said very carefully. All right. So let's move on to our first review of the episode, which is Batman number 115.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
This is Fear State Part 4 of 6, written by James Tynion IV, art by Ben Gal, who provides most of the pencils, but also a couple pages by Jorge Jimenez, colors by Tumu Morai, and we summarize with: after Peacekeeper X, Ricardo, is violently slaughtered by Peacekeeper 01, Sean Mahoney, Simon Saint panics, especially after learning that Queen Ivy could destroy the city. He orders all his forces to attack Ivy and the Unsanity Collective. Meanwhile, Mr. Wise reveals his past to Ivy as someone who worked with the Mad Hatter and used the technology to create the Unsanity Collective to try to heal the harm Hatter and the other criminals of Gotham did. In the sewers, Scarecrow draws Peacekeeper 01 to him for more mayhem. Batman and Miracle Molly soar above the city, and Batman tells Molly his feelings of fear and anger and hope in his family. They arrive at the machine which stores all the trauma of the collective, and Scarecrow uses Breaker to attack them. Molly and Batman subdue and sedate Breaker and discover Scarecrow already has the machine, which the villain also reveals to Sean Mahoney. At the end of the issue, Ivy responds with rage to the attack of Simon Saint's magistrate forces as they open fire under Gotham. So, first question, as I mentioned, this is primarily a Bengal issue for art. How did that work for you in the Fear State?
Not that big of a fan, only because the art looks almost as if it was an attempt at being dark, but it was almost childish. Something that you would see more in a comic strip than anything. So I wasn't that big of a fan. I mean, you could clearly see the pages that Jorge contributed to the issue compared to what Bengal did. And it was okay, but I'm not a fan of it at all.
I think that's fair. I personally liked it a lot. I like Bengal's art. I definitely would agree that you can tell the difference, and I would also agree that one of those big differences is the simplicity. Bengal has a much simpler style and line work than Jimenez, but I think that if you know Bengal's style, you can see that he was definitely trying to make the pencils match Jorge's style, so it doesn't feel like a super dramatic shift in artist. So I did appreciate that. I would say that it's not quite as detailed or quite as dynamic as you would have expected from Jorge Jimenez, but it still, I thought, was quite fun, and I really like the scene where you see Batman musing about his family, and you see, of course, Stephen Cass, and Bengal's drawn a fair amount of Stephen Cass and Batgirl and the Batgirl Annual, and of the rest of the family fanning out over Gotham, trying to, counter the Magistrate and Scarecrow. So I thought art-wise it was pretty good. I definitely saw how they were trying to meld the styles. I would agree that it is a bit of a step down, but it's not a big step down for me. Do you think Tynion and Jimenez picked the best pages to use Jimenez's visuals? They were primarily the scenes of the Scarecrow and Peacekeeper 01. So do you think that was a good choice, or do you wish he'd done other pages?
I mean, course, you would want them to have all of the pages of
Well,
the issue.
yes.
But if you can't, those just stick out. I mean, Scarecrow, that one page where Scarecrow's just front and center facing Mahoney. That's classic. That's classic Jorge Jimenez right there. What he's been doing since he's been on Batman. No, those pages were perfect for him to contribute. If there was going to be a contribution for him for this issue, no complaints at all.
I would agree. I think it was a good choice. It really highlights the intensity of those scenes, whereas the other scenes are a bit more meditative or straightforward action, is like the fight between Batman and Breaker. What do you think? And this, I keep asking this question because I'm still really curious, and it's a comment that I see a lot of people online talking about. What do you think of Batman's role in this issue? He's not really the leader here. He's letting Molly lead the way in terms of the plan, and he's providing support, fighting support. Do you think he's a strong enough presence? Do you think this is a good depiction of Batman?
Well, I don't have a problem with it because again, it allows these other characters that JT has been trying to develop to flourish more. So you do see a lot more of Miracle Molly being front and center. You see more of a story with Queen Ivy and Wise. So I am okay with that. Again, it doesn't weaken Batman at all. So I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that the scene, especially the 2-page spread where Batman talks about his hopes and fears, he still has a really strong perspective. It's still his book. I do hope that the finale really lets him take a leadership role, while also, of course, letting Miracle Molly be a significant character, because when Tynan leaves, I don't know if anyone's going to pick her up. I don't know if anyone's going to pick any of the characters up. I think Punchline, as we said, is going to be the most likely to continue. But after the Miracle Molly special, I would really love to see more of her explored. I'd love to see another writer sort of become her champion and really explore what her future is, if she can find her past again and reintegrate it. Like, I'd love to know the answers to those questions.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of hers.
Yeah, I mean, that one shot really hit me. I mean, all of us have just really thought about it. It got us thinking, really touched us. So good work, Tynan and Danny, on that issue. So back up, and this is going to be really interesting because Theo and I, of course, have been hoping, praying, casting up sacrificial deodorant sprays or whatever for something featuring the Batgirls, particularly Stephanie Brown and Cassandra Cain, because we really love those characters and we really want to see them highlighted. So this is the first issue of 3 backups that are going to lead into the Batgirls ongoing title, which will launch in December. And it is the same creative team, the same writers, Michael Conrad and Becky Cloonan, and the same artist, Jorge Corona. And we will definitely talk about the art here. But before we get too far, let me give us our quick summary of this 10-page backup story. Batgirls Part 1, Clueless. Cassandra Cain races ahead of Magistrate's bullets on the rooftops as Oracle tries to reach her. But Seer takes Bab's system down. Steph heads out to help Cass, and Seer hacks her comms just as she finds Cass. The 2 Batgirls head into the sewers, Steph breaking her comms to prevent tracking. Seer reveals to Babs that all of her secrets are exposed, including her identity. Steph and Cass start to head back to Babs to help her against Seer. So, first question. How does this make you feel about the upcoming Batgirls ongoing by the same team?
Boy. Story-wise, I don't know just yet. I'm gonna withhold things just a little bit longer while we get that second issue. I am not excited about the art. I'm just one of the things that I remember some people were saying was that that at some point it was going to be like a all ages type of thing. The art looks if Bengal wasn't childish, this is. I mean, it's just I don't know. It's just it does not sit well with me at all. I am not a fan of Corona at least on this book. I would take a pass. But story wise, I'm seeing that it's still within the framework of Fear State and what's going on across the different titles. I'm willing to give that another issue to see where it ends up. But I'm just not a fan of the art at all. I mean, he got Steph walking around with the ponytail, looking almost like she's coming off the streets. It's just not a fan. I'm not liking it at all. Sorry.
Well, to balance it out, I thought the art was really good. I've been a big fan of Jorge Corona since he did We Are Robin. He has a really exaggerated, very cartoony, very geometric approach to the characters. I think he makes them all look really appealing and energetic, and it really is comics. It's not trying to be too realistic. There can be a lot of appeal in really realistic drawing, but I think there also can be a lot of appeal in a really exaggerated style as well.
But you can exaggerate without being cartoony, and I think that's where my biggest issue is.
I'd agree. It's cartoony. It's just how you like cartoony or not.
I don't like it in this story. I don't think it needs to be cartoony, considering it's supposed to be spinning off from everything that we're getting in Batman, and Batman has been everything but cartoony. I mean, the only book that has been truly stylized coming out of everything JT's been doing has been Raleigh Rossmo with Harley Quinn, but that's you can almost get away with that with Raleigh Rossmo, considering the story and considering the character. But everything else has been pretty much along the same line as far as style and being a little bit more maybe house style, closer to house style, traditional style DC. But yeah, I'm not crazy about it, and no, it's just I'm not feeling it right now. I'm really not.
Well, we shall see how we do as it goes on.
I'm hoping Cloonan's story is good enough that I can bypass it.
I think it probably will be. I definitely... The next question is, what were your favorite moments for the characters in this? There's not a whole lot that happens, really, but there are some really nice character interactions between Babs and Steph and Cass. What was your favorite moment of that?
I don't... Again, maybe it's because I was turned off from the art, but I don't know if I really had a favorite moment other than, of course, Cass kicking butt like she always does. But yeah, I mean, nothing really took me by surprise or really made me perk my ears up in excitement over what the story was given.
I really liked when Babs told Steph to be careful when she's headed off to help Cass, because she wasn't being overly protective or dismissive, saying, "Oh, Steph, you can't really do much." She's saying, "Be careful," and I thought that was nice. I also really liked when Steph was describing herself and Cass, because Steph she likes to talk a lot, and so she was sort of monologuing to herself about herself and Cass, and she says Cass is scary, and Cass feels like, "Oh, I don't mean to be scary," and Steph reassures her, and I like that moment of insecurity and then reassurance. I thought that was a really nice dynamic. So that brings us to the end of Batman number 115. Let's give it a rating out of 5 Batgirls.
I'm going to give it a 3. The story for both were pretty good, but just can't get over the art, and for me that was enough to make it a 3.
Okay. I thought that it was really solid. I really liked the art, both of them. I would say it's a 3.5 for me. Definitely a 3.5. Over on the website, Scott gave Batman 115 a total of 2.5 out of 5. So Scott was definitely more on your side than mine. Steph gave it a 3.75, which gives us an average score of 3.19. And there's no mode because none of us agreed.
Whether you are a first-time TBU Comics podcast listener, a 13-year veteran, or anything in between, we'd love to hear what you think about this episode or any of the comics we discussed. Send emails to tbu@thebatmanuniverse.net. Join our Discord server linked at thebatmanuniverse.net. Send us a tweet at TBU_comics. Or, if you're a patron, leave us a comment on our Patreon page. We'd also love it if you left us a review on iTunes. We'd love to read your comments on the next episode of the Batman Universe Comics Podcast. Batman may claim he works alone, but we know that he needs the Bat Family. Join the TBU Bat Family and let us know what you think.
All right, so let's get into our second review, Detective Comics number 1044.
Detective Comics number 1044, story number 1, Nakano's Nightmare Part 2. Written by Mariko Tamaki, art by Dan Moore. Batman and Mayor Nakano continue their trek in the sewers of Gotham with a giant wall of rubble between them. Batman is finally able to reach Oracle and tells her of his whereabouts, urging her to keep everyone away. Oracle gives Batman an update of things going on at City Hall, where Nero 19 and his men are still holed up. They've been approached by a mysterious woman who turns out to be Batwoman. She quickly dispatches of the would-be king. As Batman approaches the wall separating him and the mayor, he recognizes a parasite crawling along the floor and calls out to Nakano. Nakano is not interested in getting help from Batman, but he realizes Batman is his only hope. Nakano's men are dealing with matters at City Hall. Yet he still distrusts Batman, as he has since watching his partner die. Something's happening near Nakano, however. The mound of eggs from the last issue is moving. One by one, they begin to hatch. One parasite jumps on Nakano's hand, burying itself under his skin. The mayor screams in pain as more eggs hatch and parasites attach themselves to the terrified politician. Risking another cave-in, Batman breaks the wall of rubble and finds Nakano falling into the water covered with parasites. He comes up with an idea. He raises himself from the sewer floor, takes out a taser-like weapon, and shoots it into the water, shocking Nakano and the parasites that attacked him. Everything is silent. Batman pulls the lifeless mayor from the water and attempts CPR to revive him, but it's not working. On the streets above, a catch basin overflows from below. It's littered with parasites.
All right, so
Hey guys, this is Steph, pre-recording some review thoughts I had to get out. Okay, so Detective Comics number 1044, written by Mariko Tamaki. Fantastic, as always. It's a great issue. I'm not a fan of the parasites, but it's fine. It's Halloween, it's fine. There's bugs. I love the panels with Batwoman where it's almost like a black and white comic except for her hair and her bat symbol. It's so great. I love Nakano and Batman's interaction. I love that he still hates Batman, but he's like, but I need your help, dadgummit. And it's such a great attitude. I love it. I did. The art, of course. Dan Moore is not disappointing. This is fantastic. I am trypophobic. If you don't know what that is, Google it, and if you are too, you will scream as soon as you see the image that it chooses to show you when you look up trypophobia. Anyway, it's delightful, absolutely fantastic art, of course, and then we get to the end. And unfortunately, Tamaki joins Tom King in the wall of science shame.
first Batman walked through Siberia or whatever it was in negative 40 degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit, because at negative 40, it's the same. And it's so cold that the Batjet can't function anymore, but Batman, only wearing the Batman outfit, makes it through the snow. And now Mariko Tamaki has joined that science shame club. Listen, friends, if you are in water, or anywhere, actually, you can't survive 10 amps going through your body. And if it's significantly more, you can't survive that kind of electric shock. It will kill you. It will not just kill you, it won't kill you to the point where you could be revived. You will be toast. This is a dead Nakano. He is chicken katsu, and he's dead. Okay? They've done studies where you can actually kill parasites inside your body by running milliamps through your body. Okay? You can't kill someone. Well, you can kill someone with milliamps, but it's a lot harder to kill someone with milliamps, okay? And you only need milliamps. And secondly, not that I said there was a firstly, but secondly, on the science shame, okay, listen, amps are a big deal, and you need a lot of electrical storage for that many amps, especially if he's using a taser type gun. He's probably using in the area of 50,000 volts. And if you're using a taser at 50,000 amps or volts, if you're using a taser at 50,000 volts at 10 plus amps, you are walking around with a battery that has 500,000 watts or more. And we looked that up the other night, and you would basically need something the size of an electric car battery if you wanted it to last for 1 second. So, no, this is garbage. This is garbage science. This is garbage. Batman logic is bad. This is bad. Also, thirdly, again, not that I was making a list, but thirdly, okay, any person who's had a basic CPR course knows this is not how you give CPR. You don't just punch both fists on the chest at random in anger and hope that he comes back to life. If, in fact, his heart isn't a shish kebab at this point, roast heart, then this is not CPR. This is not, yelling at him is not going to wake him up. It's not going to start his heart. Batman is a bad first aid responder, and it's garbage. It's garbage, y'all. Okay, that's all I have to say. In conclusion, Batman didn't need to overdo it. Those poor, little tiny, freshly hatched parasites would probably die with a small amount of electrical current. It didn't need to be that big. It couldn't have been that big, and it was stupid that it was that big. Thank you for coming to my Steph Talk. I will see you next time.
What do you think it would take to get Mayor Nakano on Batman's side? And do you want it to happen or not?
I think what it will take will be for Nakano to no longer be mayor. He's said it multiple times already. He's staked himself as being the anti-mask, anti-Batman, anti-vigilante politician. So he may have to temporarily trust Batman in order to get out the sewers, but they will never have a Bruce Wayne, Jim Gordon type relationship. He and Batman will never be partners. So I just don't see it happening, and I'm okay with that. He needs to have not necessarily a villain, but someone that distrusts him.
I think that's a very reasonable look at it. I think that we haven't seen enough of his family, but I think if Batman were able to save his family, that might be a wedge, even if he weren't mayor, and that would allow him, because politicians using family, or family being a talking point in a politician's campaign or policy initiative is very common. I think that you could definitely see that kind of scenario working to change Nakano's mind. I don't know if I want it. At this point, Nakano has made kind of so many stupid decisions by backing the magistrate that I'm kind of less caring about whether he reforms himself or not. Before he got in bed with the magistrate, back when he was running for mayor and he, had integrity and refused to side with the violent vigilante just because the vigilante was going to help him with the problem with the vigilantes he didn't like more. I had some sympathy for him, but since Future State, basically, he's been more and more committed to problems without making really sensible decisions. So
it really makes you wonder what happened between the Future State Nakano, who seemed more determined, I guess that's the word I can use, and this one who just, I don't know, you can just see the naivete in him. You could see the amateur politician in him and some of the decisions that he makes. And
and I wish we had a little more complex depiction, because the idea is clearly to show Nakano as a man who means well and has integrity, but he's so inexperienced. So it's basically Simon Saint and his company ruling Gotham through Nakano. But that feels a little... I wish there was a little more nuance in that.
Yeah, but I'm with you. I don't think again, if it doesn't happen, as far as those two being on the same page, I'm A-okay with that.
All right. And the second question is actually inspired by both conversations Theo and I had on the server, and also me reading Theo's review, which was quite nice, and definitely recommend checking that out. What do you think about how the parasites function in this story as a contributing factor in fear state, in creating fear? What kind of fear do you see the parasites creating, and what do you like about that?
Oh, again, as Ian said, if you haven't read my review, please do. I would appreciate that. But in my review, I came up with the notion that if you look at all of the books in which fear state is being covered, one of the gripes, and we kind of mentioned it in the last episode as well, is that to say that these are tie-ins to fear state, you really don't see much of a connection between the Bat books and the main Batman title, where Batman is dealing specifically with Scarecrow. He's dealing specifically with Peacekeeper 1 and Peacekeeper X, and you don't see much of that in any of the other Bat books that we've gotten tie-ins with. And so my argument here, and as well as in my review, is that that's okay, because if you look at what's going on in each of those other books, it's not necessarily Batman's fear state that they are dealing with. They're dealing with other characters and their fear. And then this one, it's Nakano, and for him, his fear, unlike the nanites in the Scarecrow and the fear toxin that Batman had to deal with, Nakano's fear are these parasites. And we know what effect that the parasites have had on other citizens of Gotham. We've seen how it's caused people to go mad and kill others, and we've seen how it has caused people to die. So this is Nakano's fear that we're dealing with in Detective. And so each book has its own level of fear, or its own type of fear that the main character is dealing with. I mean, even in Catwoman's fear is not necessarily White Witch, but it's actually the fear of what she's done to Alleytown since coming back, and just giving her regrets over what she's done. So each of the books has a different type of fear that it seems to be dealing with, and I am okay with that because, again, there are little points within each issue that mentions Simon Saint or the Magistrate or Scarecrow or something. But the tie-ins are basically, or the tie-ins or the other issues are basically dealing with specific fears for those characters. I mean, we saw in Nightwing where, you know, Babs dealt with the fear of she would feel if Dick was to get killed, and we saw how she reacted to that. So I'm okay with that. You know, the parasites is Nakano's fear that he has to deal with, and you know, Batman's there for the ride. He's gonna save him from it. You know, after he lets him die for a few minutes, and then you know we'll get back to the story. But yeah, I'm definitely okay with the idea of the parasites being there and being part of the overall Fear State storyline. It has nothing to do with Simon Saint. It has nothing to do with the Magistrate, but it definitely has a lot to do with fear. And right now, the fear is spotlighted on Gotham's mayor.
Yeah, I think that's a very good argument. My problem is probably compounded by the fact that I just personally really don't enjoy bugs. I have joked about, you know, the parasites and rating out of 5 parasites and stuff has been not pleased with me, but I quite honestly find it very gross personally, and I don't enjoy it. I'm not a horror guy, and this is definitely much more of a horror plot. So I simply don't enjoy the parasites being such a huge part of Detective Comics for so long. I wish that we'd get a bit more of a break in terms of a different kind of story, a different antagonist, a different problem that Batman has to surmount. Because this whole run, starting with, you know, right after Future State, has been about the parasite, basically. And so I think it would have been nice to have maybe a shorter first arc about the parasite, then another arc about something else, and then coming back to the parasite after a bit of a break. As it is, it feels a little bit stretched out, just because we're still facing the same problem. No, Hugh Vile's still not around, but these parasites still are, and it just feels like we keep coming back to the same problem. And I'd like to see Batman solving one problem before he has to face a new one.
And see, I see it, you see it as one long storyline, but I still see it as two because, yeah, even though there was a parasite implicitly, directly in that first arc after Future State, it was Hugh Bile that was the bad guy, the villain, and yeah, he had a parasite in him, but you know, he was the mastermind. He was the evildoer. He was the the mustache twirling villain for that first arc, and then we get not just one, but there's a bunch of bugs that's about to infest Gotham City. That's a different type of monster right there, and it's not something Batman dealt with in the previous arc. So I don't necessarily see it as one long story arc. I can kind of see that break after Val is killed.
And I think that's a reasonable perspective. It just, to me, it really does feel like a big long story. There has been some shifts, but it's still the same parasite problem coming back to... It's like a Hydra. You cut off one head and more parasites pop out.
But if there's one thing you and I will both agree on, there's no replacing Dan Moore.
There really isn't. I read the most recent issue of Once and Future today, and oh man, so good. Such a great art.
I love it, art. It's so good.
All right, let's move on to our backup.
Story number 2, Foundations, Part 1, written by Stephanie Phillips, art by David Lapham. At a construction site of the new Arkham Asylum, there's a massacre afoot. The site foreman looks over dead bodies with a bloodied axe in his hand, quoting Edgar Allan Poe. After marveling over his deadly work, he begins to bang his head on a window pane. Today, On the steps of Gotham City Hall, Mayor Nakano is marveling over a brighter, new era of mental health accessibility with the construction of the new Arkham Towers. The media presses him over the name of the new facility, considering the history of the Arkham name has brought to Gotham. The mayor isn't concerned, however. This new endeavor will bring a new positive history to the Arkham name, despite its dark, terrible past. Batman, in his Bruce Wayne persona, is watching while talking to Oracle. Like the press, they too are not excited about Nakano's plans, especially the name he's tying to it. As the mayor leaves the press conference, Bruce approaches to have a word. Nakano's not interested in hearing what Bruce has to say. Suddenly, a vagrant begins to approach, warning the mayor he doesn't know what he's just unleashed on the city with his decision. Gotham is doomed. As security takes the man away, Bruce decides it's time for Batman to visit the site of the new Arkham Towers. That night, two workers attempt to finish up the job for the evening. Suddenly, they hear a noise coming from another room. As they enter, they find a co-worker insistently banging his head against the window. Before they're able to react, the bloody man attacks, taking them both to the ground. Batman arrives just in time.
How does this backup compare to the previous sets of backups? Of course, we had Task Force Z's prologue. We had the kind of smattering of different ones by a couple different authors, including Megan Fitzmartin and John Ridley. And then, of course, we had the Robin backups and the Huntress backups.
So, other than the Tamaki backups with Huntress, other than the Hugh Vile backups, I'm okay with this backup as well because it's actually setting up something that we're getting in Detective Comics. You know, in the beginning, we had the Joshua Williamson backup, which was promoting Robins. Then we just had the Task Force Z one, which was basically, pimping, and propping up the upcoming Task Force Z book with Red Hood. But this, and I even mentioned this in one of my reviews of the issue, is getting us back to where I wanted the backup stories to be. Something that had meaning with what's going on in the main story as well. And we know as we get into the new year, the story as Batman goes weekly is going to be based on everything going on with Arkham Towers and everything else. And, I'm okay with this compared to the last few backups that we've gotten. This one fits the bill.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think my favorite backups have been the Huntress backups so far, just because those were really nicely tied to the main story, and I really like Clayton Henry's art, and I just love Huntress, and I thought Tamaki did a good job with her. But this is solid. Stephanie Phillips has been doing a good job over on Harley Quinn, and she also, of course, is going to get the Wonder Woman Evolution miniseries that's coming out soon. So she's kind of a rising star writer, I'd say, and I think justifiably so. She's definitely been enjoyable to read.
Now, I can't remember if it was you or Steph or someone else who's mentioned, but doesn't she have like a graduate doctorate level degree in psychology or something?
She has a PhD in rhetoric, and I believe she is a professor.
Okay, I mean, because you can see that in this story. The fact that she began the story quoting Poe story from The Fall of the House of Usher. I haven't read that since freshman year in college. But that was an interesting take. But it actually fits into what we know with regards to Arkham and being this place where only bad things happen. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah. You kind of already answered this, but does this get you more excited about the weekly Shadow of the Bat event?
So I think what has me more... I'm excited for the event already. But I think what's got me more excited about Shadow of the Bat is the fact that it's not going to be centered on Batman. It's going to be centered on the family, and issues where a particular family member is out doing their thing and protecting Gotham while they're away. So this story, while again it fits into what's going to happen in the main story, it doesn't make me any more or less excited because I'm already there anyway, knowing what we're going to be getting in January.
Yeah, I think that's a really solid take. I also think it's nice seeing them thinking ahead, and also I hope that most of these stories, while they do add flavor and anticipation to upcoming stories, I hope they also are satisfying in themselves. That's one of my biggest problems with Task Force Z, is that it did have good flavor, but it really wasn't a satisfying story on its own. The Huntress story, it was its kind of own little short story. The Damien story, not as much. And the individual backups weren't bad, but they felt like they didn't really have a plan. I don't know. I think that this is kind of the way it should go. I really like a backup that has a plan and does connect to other things that feel important.
Here's what I've also enjoyed seeing in Detective, and you kind of touched on it already, but the notion of all of these members of the Bat family coming back. At first we had Huntress, and then now we had Batwoman in this issue. So we see they're slowly bringing back the character that we know that we're going to get in Shadow of the Bat. And I think this is a good way of reintroducing them back into the main storyline with their cameos here and there. And so again, I'm excited to see what's going to happen in those first 3 months with Shadow of the Bat.
Yeah, and I want to focus myself, obviously I've structured the podcast to be this way, but I really want to focus on kind of enjoying and analyzing Fear State, because that is the big event right now. But I also hope once it's done in December, we can really hype up Shadow of the Bat, because like you, I am really excited to see what the Bat family is going to do when they're the ones responsible for Gotham. And Shadow of the Bat, the covers at least just make it look amazing. So we will be there with bells on for Shadow of the Bat. All right, so let's give Detective Comics 1044 our rating out of 5 Bat Taser Killing Shocks.
So on the website, I gave it a 3.5, but I really want to give it a 3.75. Again, it's just a tad under a 4 for me, but it's really more than a 3.5, which is what I'm limited to on the site. So for the purpose of the podcast, 3.75 is my rating.
Okay. I'm going to give it a 3. I thought it was good, but I've already sort of given my reasons for my reaction. So it was definitely good. Love the art as usual. The backup was thought-provoking and good. So it's above average for me. That gives us, and Steph gave it a 3.5. That gives us an average score of 3.42. And we do not have a mode again because nobody agreed. Got to work on that, guys.
Technically, Steph and I did, but not.
All right. So let's move on to Greater Gotham. Again, this is Greater Gotham of the non-Fear State titles. We're going to be doing all the Fear State titles in the first episode of next month, sort of wrapping them all together because we don't have a second title, and we'll take a more extended look at those. But this time, we're just going to go through the non-Fear State Bat titles and give them some thumbs up, thumbs down, or neutral. So, first one is Joker number 8. I, of course, will give this all my thumbs up because this still is one of my favorite titles on the shelf.
It is thumbs up for me simply because I am kind of in love with Vengeance. So as long as she appears in it, I'll be reading it.
She was really compelling this issue. It was really, really dark, really hard to take, but really compelling.
Yes.
Batman versus Big B #1, the Fables and Batman crossover begins. This definitely gets a thumbs up from me. I really like Bill Willingham's writing here. Something I probably wouldn't have said 5 or 6 years ago, back when my only experience with him was War Games. But since then, I've read all of Fables, fell in love with it, and this is a really cool blend of the two.
It's thumbs up for me as well. Again, I am not familiar with Fables. I know DC's supposed to be putting out a compendium.
Yeah, they've actually put out 3 of 4. Really good way to collect it.
Okay, yeah, I might pick those up and see if I can catch up. And I need to check and see if it's on Infinite.
I don't think so. I think that Vertigo is still up and down, and I don't think Fables is under it yet.
Boo. But this first issue was a thumbs up for me as well.
Batman 89 #3. This is still a thumbs up for me. I am enjoying the way they're doing Two-Face and Barbara Gordon as the Commissioner's daughter. Just a lot of interesting dynamics going on here. And did Catwoman show up this issue? I can't remember if that was this or next issue.
I don't know. I'm going to abstain. I didn't read this issue.
Okay. Batman the Detective. Which number are we on that one?
This was number 5?
Okay, Batman the Detective #5. I actually have to abstain because this is Tom Taylor, so I am not making myself read more than I have to of him.
It was a neutral for me. I was excited about the Detective when it first started, but it is fallen off, and I'm kind of ready for it to end now.
How many more issues do we have? 2 or 4?
One more.
One? Okay. So
yeah.
Almost done. I'll probably check it out as a whole when it's done. Because that won't take too long. Batman the Imposter #1. This is the interesting one with this. Is this the screenwriter of the new Batman movie? Is that who's writing this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this has, what's his name? Andrea Sorrentino on art, and it's very gritty. Honestly, this is kind of a neutral, and I admit that's because the concept just. This is another Batman origin, early Batman. I'm still really into Batman with a family established, and so conceptually I'm just less interested in it, and it tends to do things that are different just for the sake of being different rather than really kind of digging into why those differences are interesting storytelling-wise. It's not bad, so it's not a thumbs down, but it's a neutral for me.
Yeah, it's a neutral for me too. The one thing I just can't get myself over is Leslie Tompkins constantly threatening Bruce to call the cops. Either call the cops and get it over with, or go sit down somewhere. So that didn't sit well to me. But it's neutral, leaning up, but neutral.
I think that's fair. Catwoman Lonely City. This is Cliff Chiang's writer and illustrator Catwoman alternate future story of an older Selina who gets out of prison, pulls a heist. Batman is, at least appears to be dead. We can never tell with Batman, but I don't know. This one, I'm going to give a hesitant thumbs up, mostly because the art is truly amazing. To me, it feels too similar to Batman Catwoman, and I know a lot of people aren't really liking Batman Catwoman right now. I'm still loving it, so this feels kind of redundant, except for the fact that the art is really amazing.
I'm giving it a thumbs up specifically because of the art. I'm really liking the art in this version.
Cliff Chiang has long been one of the best in the business, and the writing's definitely not bad. So it's just a conceptual similarity for me.
So Cliff Chiang was at Baltimore this past weekend.
Oh, did you see it?
Oh, no, I did not. The line was ridiculously long.
Oh, I bet.
It was so long. It was so long they capped it, and I had just missed the cap. That's how people know a good artist when they see one.
I mean, he's probably one of the closest we have to a Darwin Cook right now. I mean, Cliff Chiang, Doc Shaner, Nick Darrington, those are the ones that I think of when I think of actively working artists. There are some who are good, but they really don't work that much right now. These three really work a fair amount, and they're just so clean, so appealing, such good artists. Batman Catwoman #8. This one, I mean, I'm just going to keep giving these thumbs up. It is a difficult series. It's not necessarily always a likable series, but I'm still really enjoying the struggle with Catwoman's character between the Joker and Batman. I think it's a really compelling conflict. And I'm still really liking Liam Sharp's art for this 3-issue arc.
It's a neutral for me.
And we're going to end with Batman, The Long Halloween Special by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. This, of course, is sort of a follow-up issue to The Long Halloween. And it does also, I think, follow Dark Victory. So it's kind of a continuation of the entire Long Halloween universe that Loeb and Sale created back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I'm going to have to give this a neutral. I'm actually not a fan of Long Halloween or Dark Victory. There's a lot of things we could get into, but that's kind of a longer podcast. I do really love the art. I think that the art is great, but I have a lot of problems with the way that Loeb plots. So I'm just not a fan of that.
I am going to abstain. I was not planning on reading it until this weekend.
So that brings us to the end of our Greater Gotham. Please do give us your thoughts in the comments or on the Discord. We love talking about these various issues. Tell us where we're wrong, tell us where we're right, all that stuff. And now we're going to get to our listener feedback.
Hey, tuning in from the editor's chair really quick. Okay, Joker number 8, thumbs up, but creepy. Batman versus Bigby. I'm pretty sure we're on issue number 2, y'all. Issue 1 was last month. This was number 2, and it was thumbs up. But why does Batman have an army of Robins? That's really kind of weird. Batman the Detective. Thumbs up. You guys are wrong. Oh my gosh. We finally get to figure out the backstory, and they kind of want to explain why this woman's a psychopath. You know, whatever. It's thumbs up. You guys are crazy. Batman the Imposter, thumbs up. But yeah, could go horribly, horribly wrong. Catwoman, Lonely City, number 1, tentative thumbs up. It could get lame, but for the moment, not bad, not bad. Bad Cat, number 8, neutral. Yeah, not much happens. The art was awful. Ian is wrong. The art is awful. Batman 89, number 3, thumbs up. It was fantastic. Yes, there was Catwoman, and there was weird Catwoman. And Batman Long Halloween Special, thumbs up for what it was. It was not bad. It was to make up for the fact that Calendar Man actually really had nothing to do in the first 2 books, and now he wants his revenge for being ignored. But okay, bye. See you guys next week.
Sorry to interrupt, Master Bruce. Ringing your phone now. This needs my attention.
We had a lot of good stuff via Discord mostly. Sue gave us a great letter saying, "Hey everyone, I'm really excited for this episode, especially for discussing of the Batgirl's backup, which I really enjoyed. Nightwing continues to be solid, and I adored the kiss. Woo woo! Though I was puzzled on where Batgirl's takes place, since the end of Nightwing after the clock tower explodes says continues in Batman number 115, and then the backup doesn't mention the explosion. Batman 115 was great, especially the Molly segments. I thought the Mr. Wise reveal was cool, though he does seem a bit hypocritical. But isn't everyone? I think I'm done with Batman Catwoman. I got lost somewhere and Andrea feels out of character, and she was mainly why I was reading. I'm going to miss Ram V on Catwoman since he was truly amazing. White Wish should have been fleshed out more, I think, especially since she was gone for 7 issues before coming back. She felt wasted. Gardner and Harley are great, and I'm excited for the Harley Quinn issue where they team up. Also, can we get Bella a DC Wiki page? Because she still doesn't have one. Well, you know, Sue, the wiki is a place where anyone can edit, so you can dive in there. The recent webtoon where Duke has a crush on a girl was okay, although I wish it was one of his already established love interests like Claire, Izzy, or Rico. I have vague memories of that being a thing. Correct me if I'm wrong. No, that's correct. Those are his current love interests. He's had quite a lot. Also, I think Steph mentioned the possibility of my beloved Betty Kane appearing in the webtoon, and I would love it if she did. I think that would also be very cool. And Kate, too. I think she'd fit perfectly in the slice of life format. Betty's always been a fun character, and I really want her to interact with the Bats. Her and Steph would be an amazing duo, methinks. I love the new Al Ghul we got in Mother Soul. I suspect Respawn is a new Wilson kid. Anyway, I know I'm rambling, but keep up the good work. I look forward to your next episode. Sincerely, Liz, aka Sue. Well, thank you, Sue. I've always really enjoyed talking to you on the Discord, and I always enjoy your feedback. We definitely will keep an eye on all of those things. Oh, and this, I think Theo will appreciate this. P.S. Forgot to mention, I thought Vengeance was awesome. So you and Sue are Vengeance buddies, Theo.
Oh, she's so hot. I love her. I have a crush.
Okay. A crush on someone who rips people's arms off. That's definitely a thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's not She-Hulk level crush, but crush still.
I didn't think about that. That is actually a good connection. Okay. The professor on Discord says, still cannot really get over the colors on Miracle Molly. Jimenez posted about it on his Instagram the other day. I think he even finds Morey's Mork, they're unbelievable. I think overall the creative has been pretty strong, and I'm kind of sad to see it ending so soon. I know Jimenez is staying on for now, but it's just not the individual strengths, but how Tynan, Jimenez, and Morey seem to mesh well as a collective. I'm not overly thrilled about living with Williamson until then, TBH. Hashtag meh. I'm actually excited to see what Williamson does. I'm definitely not as excited as I was when I heard that Tynan was going to be the next person on Batman, but the fact that Williamson is doing things with Batman Incorporated is really exciting to me, because that's one of my favorite things ever about Batman. What do you think, Theo?
My concern is, well, I have two concerns with Williamson. One, I'm just fearful that he's just got so much writing going on. He has so many books going on that Batman may suffer. But more than anything, I'm not necessarily concerned with him being on the book. I'm concerned who's going to come after him.
Well, we know Jorge Molina is doing some of the art for Williamson's arc.
Right, but DC...
Oh, Jose. Sorry, not Jorge. Jose.
But DC specifically said that, Williamson was doing, what, one arc? Two arcs?
We only know about the first 4 issues.
Okay, yeah, and so my concern is, that's going to be it, and he's just holding over for someone else, and I'm just afraid of who that might be.
Brandon Thomas, DC, make it happen.
What?
Brandon Thomas, DC, make it happen.
Oh no! Of course, if that was to happen, yeah, I'll be jumping from the rooftops in glee. But if it's the name that shall not be named out of my mouth,
I forgot about this.
I am going to be so ticked. It may be the first time ever that I consider not actually collecting Batman. So I'm just a little pessimistic about that.
We shall see. We shall see.
I just don't see Williams. I just don't see Williams being the long term writer.
He's just doing so much, and Batman is such an intense commitment.
Yeah, there's nothing against him. He's a great writer.
No. I think it would be fun to see him do a couple years on Batman.
Yeah, but with everything that he's doing, I just can't see him.
And I really don't want him to give up Robin to do Batman.
No, and I know he's not going to give up Justice League Incarnate, because that's just getting ready to start. So I just don't see him being the long term answer over at Batman to replace JT, and I'm just utterly concerned about who that person might be.
Well, let's not borrow trouble, but I definitely understand. All right. Borvok on Discord mentioned, okay, just now catching up on the podcast before the current podcast, and I think you guys might be overthinking the 3 kisses. The way I read it, Ghostmaker was just taking a quick moment while inside Bruce's mind to snoop around for sexy stuff, because that's how mature Ghostmaker is. I don't think it had anything to do with archetypes or even romance. I didn't think about that, but that's actually perfectly in character for Ghostmaker, and that makes a lot of sense.
Good.
Caspian73 on Discord says, how come Steph and Theo's Clown Hunter and Red Hood pitch is more interesting than anything I've read from DC recently? R.I.P. Ripardo's man bun / deep character. I think that most of DC is actually really pretty solid right now. I definitely think that the Red Hood stuff has been a bit unfocused, partly because there's just so many people working with Red Hood. You had Zdarsky and Rosenberg, and he was popping up in other stories too, and it just feels like a lot of... he was in the Clown Hunter. Yeah, so that was Brisson. So yeah, it's like 3 different writers pulling him in 3 different directions. And so I definitely understand that the Red Hood pitch would feel better because it would be hopefully ongoing. But now that he's in Task Force Z, hopefully that'll be the singular direction that Jason's going in for now.
Have you seen the preview of it yet?
Yeah. It looks a little more interesting than I thought it was. I'm not a big zombie fan, and I didn't really, as I said, I didn't really like the prologue in the detective backups. But the main series looks like it might actually be pretty compelling.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
I mean, definitely like give a first issue try, you know?
Yeah, people are crying over the whole Jason naked thing right now, but yeah.
Wait, which one?
There's a few panels that were released showing Jason getting in the shower or something, but you know, it was their way of trying to make him look more like Dick. He was muscular and naked, but of course, yeah.
Okay, I mean, I don't really care.
Yeah, me neither. But that's the main picture that's been flown around the social media world these days. Again, I'm like you. I am not a zombie person. So again, now that's not to take away from Deceased, which was awesome. But yeah, I'm just I'll take your word for it if you say issue 1 was good.
Yeah, I think it'll be worth checking out.
Okay.
All right, so that brings us to the end of our episode. I really appreciate all those comments. It really makes us feel like, you know, people are listening and we're not just sort of talking. I mean, I, of course, love talking to Steph and Theo, but I wouldn't have to record that. The fact that we record it, we're really grateful that you guys listen and respond. It really makes for a feeling of a good community. And we also really want to take the time to appreciate those Bat fans who contribute to our Patreon regularly at a certain level. If you are on the wall, we read you every episode, and I'll do that now. We have Donald Townsend, Lisa Slack, Gerald Green, Ian Miller, Stanton's Grave, Captain America, Austin Davis, Brendan Roberts, Tim Garassi, Donovan Morgan Grant, Stephanie Mounts, Joshua Lappenbertoni, Ed Grouse, Hannah Garr, Mary Garrett, Johnny McCloskey, Cesar Diaz, Rob O, Hank Bennett, and Robert Lewis. Thank you all for helping us keep the servers running so we can have our long, well over 350 episode archive on Batman Universe Comic Podcast alone, plus, of course, Batgirl to Oracle, Everyone Loves the Drake, and the newly restarted The Batman Universe podcast, just the main podcast with Dustin and other hosts. So many podcasts. Your contributions, of course, help keep the servers going so we can host them all and you can download them. So thank you very much. Until next time, when we dig deep into Fear State's tie-in issues, I have been Ian.
And this is Theo.
And this has been your episode of the Batman Universe Comic Podcast for the end of October. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Miss you, Steph.
We do miss you, Steph. Come back.